In a quiet village nestled near the foot of the Himalayas in India, a young man named Kavi spent his days immersed in books and questions. He was intelligent and curious, but often overwhelmed by life's randomness. His father had passed away in a sudden accident. His mother suffered from chronic illness, and he often found himself asking the heavens, "Why me? Why now? Why this?" One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting a golden glow over the rice fields, Kavi walked to the edge of the forest. There, an old Buddhist monk named Bhante Arya was known to meditate under a sacred fig tree. Kavi had heard tales of Bhante's wisdom, how he could answer questions no one else dared to ask. Timid but desperate, Kavi approached the monk and bowed respectfully. "Bhante," he said, voice shaking, "I feel like nothing in my life makes sense. I suffer, and everything feels random. Can you help me understand why this is happening to me?" Bhante Arya opened his eyes slowly, as if waking from a dream. He gestured for Kavi to sit and said, "You are asking a question many have asked before. But first, let me tell you a story." "Long ago," Bhante began, "there was a farmer who complained daily about the unpredictability of his crops. Too much rain, too little rain. Insects this year, frost the next. One day, his horse ran away, and the villagers said, 'What bad luck?' The farmer simply replied, 'Maybe.' Days later, the horse returned with 2 wild horses. The villagers rejoiced. 'What good fortune?' Again the farmer said, 'Maybe.' Then, the farmer's son broke his leg trying to tame one of the wild horses. Once more they cried, 'Terrible misfortune!' He said again, 'Maybe.' Soon after, war came, and soldiers took every able-bodied young man to fight, except the farmer's son. The broken leg saved his life." Kavi listened, mesmerized. "You see," Bhante continued, "life changes constantly. In Buddhism, we call this anicca, impermanence. Suffering arises when we cling to the idea that things should stay the same. But life flows like a river. We must learn to float with it." Kavi looked down, thinking of all the pain he tried to hold on to. The broken expectations, the regrets, the need to make sense of every misfortune. For the first time, he felt a quiet loosening in his chest. "So, are you saying everything has a purpose?" he asked. Bhante smiled. "Not always a visible one, but every moment is part of your becoming." The next morning, Kavi returned to the fig tree before sunrise. Bhante Arya was already seated in meditation, his breathing calm and rhythmic like waves on a shore. When he opened his eyes, Kavi greeted him with a slight bow and said, "Bhante, I want to understand more. If things don't happen randomly, then what causes them?" Bhante motioned for Kavi to sit. "Let me tell you another story," he said. "In a nearby village," Bhante began, "there lived a woman named Mira. She was known for her kindness and generosity. Yet she lived a life filled with hardship. Her crops often failed, her children fell sick, and her husband left her. People whispered behind her back, saying, 'Why does someone so good suffer so much?' One day, Mira came to a wise teacher with the same question. 'Why is this happening to me?' she asked. The teacher replied, 'Tell me, what did you plant in your garden last season?' Mira answered, 'Sunflowers and tulsi.' 'And what grew?' he asked. Mira said, 'Exactly that. Sunflowers and tulsi.' The teacher nodded. Just as a garden yields what we plant, our lives yield the results of our actions, not just in this lifetime, but many lifetimes before. This is karma." Kavi listened intently as Bhante continued. "Karma is not a punishment. It is not a reward. It is simply the echo of our actions. When you act with kindness, you plant a seed. It may not grow immediately. Sometimes the seed needs rain, or sunlight, or time, but eventually it sprouts. Likewise, harmful actions plant thorns that might grow suddenly or wait in silence." Kavi looked thoughtful. "So, the pain in my life, Is it karma from the past? Perhaps, Bhante said gently. But karma isn't fixed. It's not a prison. It's a path. With every thought, every word, every action, you are planting the garden of your future. Bhante reached into a pouch beside him and took out a handful of mustard seeds. He placed them in Kavi's hand. These are yours now. What will you grow? Kavi smiled for the first time in many days. Something beautiful, he said. That afternoon, Kavi sat beside Bhante again, his mind filled with more questions. Bhante, he said, if I create my future through karma, does that mean I can control everything that happens to me? Bhante smiled and shook his head gently. No, Kavi. The idea of control is one of the greatest illusions that causes human suffering. Let me tell you another story. There was once a king who wanted to control everything, his soldiers, his land, even the weather. One day he demanded that the royal priests create a ritual to stop the monsoon rains so he could finish building a grand temple. Despite their chants and offerings, the rains came anyway, flooding the site. Furious, he imprisoned the priests. Later that week, the king fell ill. No doctors could cure him. A wandering monk came to the palace and offered to help. The monk said, "Your illness is your teacher. You tried to control what was never yours to command." Kavi thought for a moment. So, we cannot control the rains, but we can control how we respond to them? Yes, Bhante said. Control is not about domination. It is about wisdom. It's choosing your attitude when the storm comes. It's about deciding how you treat others, how you speak, how you breathe through pain. That is the only real control we ever have. He picked up a leaf from the ground and let it fall. The wind will blow as it wishes, but we can learn to dance with it. Kavi felt a shift in his heart. He had spent so long trying to control every outcome, blaming himself for every misstep, feeling crushed by every failure. But now he began to understand that surrender was not weakness. It was clarity, acceptance. And through acceptance came peace. The days passed quietly as Kavi continued to sit with Bhante Arya under the sacred fig tree. He began to wake earlier, to sit longer, to listen more and talk less. He had come seeking answers, but was now learning how to live the questions. One crisp morning, as mist curled over the valley, Bhante said, "Kavi, do you know why people truly suffer?" Kavi thought and replied, "Because they don't understand why things happen?" Bhante nodded. Partly, but more so because they resist what is. They cling to outcomes, identities, even pain, and yet nothing stays, not even suffering. He continued, "True peace does not come from having no storms. It comes from knowing how to sail through them." The Buddha taught that we must let go of attachment, not to love less, but to love wiser, to act but not obsess, to strive but not grasp. Bhante stood and walked toward a stream nearby. He motioned for Kavi to follow. "Look at the water," he said. "Does it resist the rocks? Does it complain about the bends? Number it moves with grace, over and around, persistent yet soft. That is how we must be." Kavi watched the flowing water, and something within him opened. He understood that the pain he had carried wasn't punishment, but part of his path. That every loss had given him perspective. Every failure had forged his humility. Every unanswered question had deepened his wonder. He turned to Bhante. "I'm ready," he said. Bhante smiled warmly. "Then go. Carry this peace into the world. Live not to control, but to understand. Plant kindness. Let go of what you can't hold, and trust the unfolding of your path." Years later, Kavi became a beloved teacher. People traveled from far and wide to hear him speak. And whenever someone asked him how he found peace, he would smile and say, "It started with a question, and then a story, and then silence beneath a fig tree."